Team's income is looking very robust right now. It's time for you to have a think about our profit margin and what areas of the operation might benefit from that money.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of my F1 22 MyTeam career mode. This is for the Dutch Grand Prix for episode 10, I believe we're on now. If you missed last episode for the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, be sure to go check that one out. That race went right down to the last corner, which were pretty cool. But yeah, we have a bit of a triple header here with from Spa now to Zandvoort and then Monza as well, so we don't have much time in between these three races. Just doing some activities and checking the R&D. We have upgrades pending for all departments, I think, so yeah, that's good. And we have a department event. So it's for Zhou Guan Yu. They want to give him a break because they think he might be burning out a little bit. We're actually gonna decline the break because it improves his racecraft but gets rid of his awareness. But then yeah, I think it's better to have racecraft. I don't think he's going to be going for points anyway. But we actually have the performance review that's going to boost his I think his focus, so maybe that might make up for it a little bit, who knows. But yeah, let's before we go into the race weekend, we can have a quick look at the R&D chart. So Williams did bring upgrades into Spa, as did we, just not quite as much, so we're still kind of chilling around there at the bottom, still managing to drag the car up for a couple of points positions. 3 points position finishes we've had kind of just past the halfway point in the season, so we only needed 2 for a sponsor goal, but I'm quite happy with that. But let's see what we can do going into the Grand Prix then, as we come into qualifying for our kind of first run at Zandvoort, a track I do actually quite like. I think I'm pretty good at this track compared to some of the other ones. I have raced it in a lot of the other sims that I do, so Race Room, I've done a lot of it in Race Room, and Assetto Corsa, I think I've done a bit in R-Factor 2 as well on this track. So yeah, that's just his first lap, but we're going to go out again, of course, towards the end of the session. I've given myself enough time to do kind of 2 back-to-back laps, so once we burn off some fuel, we actually have enough fuel for 2 consecutive laps here, so I thought I might as well use it and try it. So yeah, this part of the track seems really wide compared to on the other sims, so maybe it's just the newer version of Zandvoort compared to the older version that was, I think, didn't have quite as steep a banking. But anyway, this is his lap so far then, and we're 3 tenths up actually, so not doing bad. A couple of cars on their out laps, but that Mercedes gets out of our way, so thank you very much, Mercedes driver. I'm not sure which one that was. As we come down the back straight then, looking for the curb. We can brake about there, around about 75 metres ish, and we're getting a load of time around that corner, so maybe I had a big snap of oversteer or something. But oh, really wide at that corner, we didn't quite get that one right. As we come round this last really banked corner, it's a really nice corner compared to the old version of the track on this newer version. But we go out for his second back-to-back lap, and you'll see actually the Mercedes that let us through earlier has actually caught up with us right in his rear view mirror, and that's less than ideal. Hopefully they don't hold us up, but it looks like we're holding them up, so they're not going to be very happy about that as we come into this kind of right-left chicane, and yeah, we're actually battling them, so that's less than ideal. We're holding each other up, and I just dropped the rear end on the exit, so that's going to be a very angry Mercedes there. But in the end, it's actually only I think it was P18 where we finished. We'll have a look for confirmation, but yeah, it is P18, so not in Q2 then this time, and a little bit of work to do. And before we go into the Grand Prix, I actually realised I was using my practice engine for qualifying, so that was less than ideal. I thought, well, P18 anyway, so, you know, we might as well just take the penalty and and start from the back. We actually have rain forecast for the Sunday, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, we're going to take a penalty just to make sure as engine components don't break. We're only using column 2, I'm saving column 3 for a Monza, but with that, let's go to the Sunday.
For years, the passionate Dutch fans have been easy to find trackside in races across Europe. Here this weekend, it's even easier to find the Dutch fans as they have a race to call their own once again. A warm welcome to all of our viewers in the Netherlands and around the globe, of course, as we get underway for the Dutch Grand Prix. 2.6 miles then make up a lap here at a very wet Zandvoort circuit, where some tricky braking zones and sudden drops can make it all too easy to slide off into the gravel. 14 corners overall, a 678-metre main straight. That will provide the best chance for overtaking. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Perez, George Russell and Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Bottas and Sebastian Vettel, Albon, Yuri Vips, Lance Stroll and Zhou, Norris, they've taken a grid penalty, Ocon, Pierre Gasly and Kevin Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, Latifi, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, Tsunoda and Evans. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race.
Alright, here we go then for the Sunday. As you can see, a very wet Sunday, and wet weather isn't my strong point in this game. But we'll give it his best shot. We're starting from the back of the grid, and it is forecast actually to dry out towards the end of the race, so we'll see what happens. But it's lights out and away we go then for the Dutch Grand Prix here at Zandvoort. Not a terrible start actually for a change, although Tsunoda does come back at us. We have the inside line there. We think just managed to sneak ahead of a couple of cars. We've still got Schumacher around the outside, but I get a big snap of oversteer on the exit there and have to concede to Schumacher as he just cuts across us there and nearly goes into us. I try and sneak around the outside of about 3 cars there. Not sure how that's going to work. We get on the curb, it's very slippy on there, and we do get Schumacher then, so we're up into P20. Latifi and Magnussen ahead, and it's very, very sketchy on this first lap on the intermediate tyres. Obviously no dry line forming just yet, so we'll have to wait a couple of laps for that before we can really attack. But Latifi just slows Magnussen down there, and we sneak up the inside. Bit of a cheeky move, but we'll take it as we go a little bit defensive. Once again, just trying to be nice and gentle on the inputs for these first couple of laps until we get a bit of this kind of standing water moved and a bit of a drier line. Magnussen does come back at us there on the inside, and then there's a little gap there, but Latifi just gives us a tap there, really aggressively slams the door. Thankfully we didn't get any damage there, and going into lap number 2 then, we're up into P19, so after the first lap we're pretty much back where we started in qualifying, although I think it was P18 not P19. But we have Schumacher now. He just cruises up us inside. We're going to go round the outside of him, try and get that position back, and actually around the outside of that T1 you get a much better exit, and we managed to keep Schumacher at bay then, and hopefully we can look at maybe making a move on Latifi as we go around the outside of him at the left-hander, and yeah, that's Latifi dealt with. So now we are back up into P18, and we've got Gasly and his teammate up ahead of us, so we'll see what we can do there. Big switch of oversteer though. Everything's still very sketchy on these opening laps, but we're going to skip forward onto our lap 4 this is, and you've actually got Zhou and Gasly having a bit of a scrap. I think Zhou lost the rear there just a little bit, and yeah, we're actually going to take advantage of that and try and get ahead of Gasly as we're around the outside of him now. But as we go up through the gears, you'll see he just kind of pulls ahead, so I don't know if he used a bit of VRS there, or if it's just our our downforce that's really kind of causing a load of drag, even those kind of lower speeds. But we're going to stay on the back of him. Not much we can do just yet, and we're going to tuck back in, regroup, and maybe try again. Very difficult to kind of overtake in these conditions, because unless you're on the racing line, yeah, you're just going to be in the standing water. But lap 8 this is, we have Norris and Vettel going at it again, and this time Norris goes round the outside once again, but this time manages to get the move to work. So that's Norris up into the top 10, and that's Vettel locked out now of the points position, you'd say. And he's actually got Albon behind him, so we'll see what happens there. But this is our lap 8 onto lap 9, still behind Gasly. Looks like there's been some movement behind us, as Magnussen's now right up behind us. But we come out at T1 then. Not the best exit in the world, but yeah, his teammate doing a good job of holding Gasly up there. And once again, we're going to try it round the outside of the long left-hander, squeeze him in a little bit tighter on the exit there, and that's going to stop him getting the power down. And now we get the power down and get ahead of him. So up into P17 now then. We're kind of making slow but steady progress as this Grand Prix goes on. And yeah, big mistake there though. That's going to invite Gasly right back round. It gives us a tap on his way through, but yeah, we're just going to re-overtake him as he leaves the door wide open on that right-hander. So yeah, he could have made the most of that, but he didn't. So luckily we just about managed to hold on as we skip forward then once again in this Grand Prix onto lap 10. This is coming on to lap 11, chasing down his teammate as we come into the braking zone of T1, and he's very slow on the entry to that corner. So I think as downforce really helping us out there, as we're going to try and make the same move round the outside of the long left-hander that kind of goes uphill. And we're side by side now, and he just, I think he uses the ARS and just pulls his nose back in front of us. But we're going to keep on him, keep on his teammate. I don't want to fight him too much as he's really slow around that right-hander and a little bit twitchy on the exit there. As we come into this right-hander, most of the corners are right-handers, but once again leaves the door wide open, and we take that position like taking candy from a baby really. And there we are then up into P16, and yeah, we can go chasing after Ocon and Stroll. We might not catch Ocon, but I think Stroll might slow him up a bit. Actually, Ocon's got ahead of Stroll now, so we should be able to get ahead of Stroll if we keep pushing. But you might see the weather is improving. There's a dry line forming, and I think at this point the rain has actually stopped just about. I think all the droplets you see on his camera now are from the spray from the cars ahead. So yeah, the track is going to be drying pretty soon, but we're at kind of this awkward position where we're halfway through the Grand Prix, and it would be time for us to change tyres onto a fresh set of intermediates as we close up to Stroll, then once again making that same move as he leaves the door. The AI really not defending that corner at all, so yeah, we're just going to take full advantage of that and just send it straight up the inside of Lance Stroll. But yeah, like I was saying, strategy wise, we come on to lap 18 then, we skip forward to the same point. You've now got Vips actually holding Ocon up, but I think we're going to see a couple of cars come into the pits for their pit stop onto a new set of intermediates. Now I'm actually going to stay out and stay on this set of intermediates because I think we can stretch this stint out until it's time for the slick tyres. So we're in P15 now. I'm going to commit to this strategy and we'll see how it plays out in a few laps time once the track's dried out. We're up into P13 then. A couple of guys did come in for the pit stops. I think that was Bottas and yeah, a couple of other guys behind us. So P13 on lap 19 on to lap 20. Vips and Ocon do come in. I'm going to get my medium tyres ready because I think it is going to be that time very soon for us to go on to the slick tyres. We actually overtake Norris and Bottas there. I think Bottas were actually he pit a lap before, so up into P9 actually. So if we can get this strategy to work, we should be okay. We are on very worn intermediate tyres though, so we'll see how that works out. But there's Bottas, he makes a mistake on lap 21. Norris goes up the inside. That's the second time he's had to battle someone for P10. And they're still side by side, going round the left-handers, the swing up the hill then. And Norris just pulls ahead, and that's him back up into P10 once again. But like I said, our tyres are really going off the cliff here. As we come on to lap 23, we've got Norris right up his rear bumper. And to be honest, we're just going to let him pass, because this lap, we're going to come in. We're going to come in for the slick tyres. It did come up as the engineer saying he wanted to change the strategy. So we're going to try it. I think the track is just about dry enough. DRS isn't enabled yet, so I think it's really kind of on the cusp. But we're going to risk it. We're going to come in for his only pit stop of this Grand Prix. And we'll see where we come out once the other guys come on to the slick tyres as well. But this is us coming out then of the pits. We're in P16. Ocon on the mediums behind us as well, so I think it is just about the right time for us to come on. A lot of understeer there though, as the track is still very greasy, a little bit damp. So maybe we came in a lap too early. We'll soon find out though, as the track is pretty dry now. And we're going to come round this last corner, lap 24 onto 25. You can see plenty of other cars in the pits. You've got Gasly, Stroll, Albon, he's in the pits. Bottas is in the pits, but he's going to come out just ahead of us, is Valtteri Bottas, and we're now down into P11. So we lost out to Norris, obviously he overtook us on track, which is fair enough, but we had a couple of second gap to Bottas, so maybe we did come in just one lap too early, although we're still in P11, so when we came in, I think we were like P15, or when the other guys came in, sorry, we were P15, so we've still jumped about 4 cars with the strategy, and we have about 10 laps, 11 laps left to see if we can actually catch up to Bottas. 2.2 seconds the gap. Lap 25 onto 26, we're bringing that down to under 2 seconds, just about. And yeah, it's all or nothing now. I've just got to do qualifying laps till the end of this race, lap 31, and we brought that gap right down to 1.2 seconds. So we're catching Bottas, just taking about a tenth off him each lap, and we're going to see if we're towards the end of this race we can once again sneak into the points, just like we did at Spa. We don't have long left, but we're going to try it anyway as we come around this kind of last sector, or the end of sector 2 into sector 3, and look at that, the gap once again down just over a second. If we can just get in that DRS, that's going to be mighty helpful for us as we come into this last section. Keeping an eye on the relative there, we are within 1 second, we're in the DRS, that's really going to help us in the straights, and that's just going to help pull us closer and closer to this man Valtteri Bottas. We are actually fighting Alfa Romeo for championship points in the Constructors, so if we can get ahead of him, that's going to be a really important result for us. But he has a bit of a switch of oversteer there on the exit, and we're right down to half a second now, the gap. So we're going to see what we can do. As you'll see in a straight line, the Alpha just takes off, but in the corners, in the more twisty sections, we gain a lot of time on him. So like there, he's back to 1 second ahead, but as soon as you have like a corner here, you'll just see that time fly back down again. As we come on to lap 35 then, the second to last lap of this Grand Prix, we're within half a second of this man Valtteri Bottas, come through the right-hander, not quite close enough to make that move we'll be making through that corner, but we come in then to the end of sector 2, onto sector 3, we're pretty much right on his rear end now as we come into the DRS zone, and we're not quite close enough to make a move, but that's not going to stop me. We're going to absolutely send it from about, I don't know even know how far back that was. We were about half a second back, and my life flashed before my eyes a little bit as I sent that one right down the inside. I saw him turn in, and luckily he just backed out of it at the last minute. That could have ended both of his races there, but you know, it was for the points position. It's got to be all or nothing. As we go on to the last lap, you see him absolutely flying down the straight, right back onto us, half a second the gap. But out of that first corner, we just get so much better traction on the exit, and we'll see if we can keep him at bay for this last lap as we come through sector 1 then in this flat out section. We don't have too much ERS left, but we should have enough to defend. Once again, look how much he gains once we get up into those higher gears. But like I said, when we get to this kind of more twisty section, we pull back ahead of him a little bit into this right-hander, and then we only have the left-hander. One more DRS zone here, we'll hopefully be able to defend from him, as once again round the corner, the kind of mid-corner apex speed, we carry a lot more. He's going to look round the outside. We kind of place his car right in the middle of the track, so nowhere really for him to go. Coming through the last couple of corners, and all we have to do is hold on now for this last long right-hander, or the second to last long right-hander. This really banked kind of a long right-hander, but it's flat out, and yeah, we are ahead, so we managed just to scrape by and finish in P10 for another points paying position at the end of the race. Man, those last few laps, I was absolutely on the limit with this car, just absolutely sending it. Yeah, it got a bit sketchy, but yeah, I'm very happy with that.
A difficult race then on a circuit that demands complete concentration, but they've persevered to take the win here today. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sports that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
So Max Verstappen then wins his home Grand Prix. Hamilton on second and Leclerc down in third, so that's not going to be good for Leclerc's championship, as Verstappen pulls ahead just a little bit more then. We'll have a look at the end, see what the points gap is. But Verstappen's starting to run away with it a little bit, so Leclerc's going to have to keep his wits about him. He's really going to need to win a race in the next couple of races. I mean, we have I think, the Italian Grand Prix coming up next. So yeah, I'm sure he's going to want a result there at the home Grand Prix for Ferrari. Meanwhile, for us then, we finish in P10, get another point. As a teammate right down, he actually got a DNF. I think he had an engine fault, an engine failure, which is quite worrying. We had one in Hungary. Hopefully one each, that'll be all it is for the season. But yeah, Verstappen 33 points ahead now, Red Bull 52 points ahead of Ferrari, so they're really going to need to come back next race at the home Grand Prix, and we'll see what happens there. For us, 10 points then in P7, and hopefully we can hold on to that for the end of the season. That'd be nice. But yeah, until then, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, you know which buttons to click, and we'll see you all in the next episode.